China is the most populous country in the world and covers a vast geographic expanse. Since China's reform of its economy in 1982, China began to favor economic growth with heavy emphasis on infrastructure. According to this graph, China will have 40% of developing countries' investment for infrastructure in the next few years. This demonstrates the rapid pace of development in China. Hong Kong, one of China's autonomous regions, is a great example of a highly developed infrastructure for a specialized economic and geographic region. It had a head start on China as it used to be a British colony which focused more on development. Even now, the investment in infrastructure isn't stopping. Hong Kong faces a special issue with its population density. At 7 million in population, contained over a few islands and on mainland China itself, it has over 16,000 people per square mile and is the fourth most dense sovereign territory in the world. For comparison, the US is 179th at 89 people per square mile. This causes the infrastructure to favor small roads, high buildings, and more expensive solutions like subways. Hong Kong used to have an airport in the highly populated area Kowloon, which was finally moved to the island of Lantau for this reason. Many of residents of Hong Kong, like the mainland, favor biking or walking for personal transportation as opposed to cars. Another trait shared with the mainland is the high taxes on automobiles, which range from 35 to 100% of the car's price. Gas is also heavily taxed. Combine this with a lack of parking space, usually only those with high income choose to own cars. Sharing public transport is the only way many can afford to get around, like this trolley service which has been around since 1904 during colonial rule. The lack of real estate leaves little room for too many trams or trolleys. For this reason, and the costs associated with above-ground development, make maintaining a large subway sustainable, and Hong Kong has a mature and extensive network for the MTR subway trains. The advanced system connects under the water to different islands and regions and has a convenient and efficient ticket system in the form of the octopus card. Its use covers all public transportation, but also proves China's ability to make its infrastructure work with the economy, as it can be used for purchases at private businesses. Another example we have here is the dedicated Disneyland MTR car, which only services those going to Disneyland. The same can be said for its port economy. Hong Kong ships about 24 million containers a year and is expanding. By sea, they are dredging up parts of the harbor to 18 meters deep for the ability to service larger ships. When its 24 berths and 9 terminals are occupied, it also has capability to load ships in the middle of the port. To help operate all this, the port has an ERP system to communicate the information on containers instantly to operators. The road must also be capable of handling all the cargo trucks that traffic it. And when loading, there must be an efficient system, like this parking garage, which loads boats more efficiently as a never-ending train of trucks brings in cargo and drives out. These improvements on infrastructure means a reduction of lead time to export from 13 days in 2004 to 5 in 2011, according to Index Mundi. Mainland China has different constraints since it is much more vast and the population density is much lower at 389 people per square mile. Beijing itself is more dense on average, but at 3,200 people per square mile, it still is about a fourth of Hong Kong's population density. This means investment into more expensive solutions to reducing traffic are less utilized. It relies more heavily on road traffic, which in China carries virtually half of all passenger traffic. Again here, we see China's vast differences in region, geography, and especially economy. Beijing is a major cultural and political center. Therefore, its priorities aren't centered around the same ones as Hong Kong, which is a port city. There is manufacturing in Beijing, but not in the center where we visited. Instead, Beijing has preserved many of the roads and streets from its long past in the center. Here, as we flew through the streets on these rickshaws, we saw that these roads were built before cars were very important to the infrastructure of China, as countless near misses and traffic jams littered our journey. These are kept for tourism, as well as the inherent value to the Chinese and their cultural heritage, which for Beijing stretches back almost 3,000 years. While the small roads are kept, new ones are made to be spectacular and epic in scale. Beijing, being a political center, has a lot of government influence in its infrastructure. Here at Tiananmen Square, the roads themselves in these areas are extra wide to accommodate multiple lanes of traffic and parade-sized vehicles. During the 60th anniversary of the People's Republic in 2009, an audience of 100,000 people gathered for a parade of 10,000 soldiers and various mobile missile launchers, tanks, and other military vehicles in Tiananmen Square. More recent political constructions include the Olympic stadiums, the Bird's Nest, and Water Cube, and were aimed at showing the world China's modernization and relevance. Despite these large roads and massive investments in road infrastructure, as well as subways, the roads are extremely crowded. Beijing has seen its population explode 44% from 2000 to 2010, from 13 million to over 20 million people. For comparison, New York City, the U.S.'s most populous city, grew only 2% at the same time for a gain of around 170,000 people. Since it was almost impossible to expand infrastructure that fast, the government in Beijing has resorted to limit the number of new cars on the road to 240,000 new cars a year. These numbers are astronomically high when compared to the US, but are estimated to be around 700,000 if left unchecked. One effect of all this traffic is air pollution. Here is a picture of Hong Kong's air. This is a picture of the air in Beijing. The air is especially bad since its geography works against it as pollution from the west blows into it and is usually trapped in by the mountains surrounding it. Making it worse is the stagnating traffic of cars idling. This has had adverse effects on the health of those in Beijing and has made the policy of excluding certain license plates in Beijing on certain days permanent after it was seen to reduce traffic and pollution during the 2008 Olympic Games. The government has done much to try to reduce pollution with subsidies. The government highly subsidizes cleaner public transportation, and it encourages China's car companies like BYD to produce electric cars. Thanks to these policies, Beijing has seen its air quality improve gradually, but as the number of cars continues to rise, this may not be enough. Additional regulation may be needed, so businesses should prepare themselves to adapt. China's infrastructure continues to grow, bringing new investment into the country and making supply chains more efficient by reducing transportation costs and lead times. It remains to be seen if China can recoup its investments and overcome major challenges given its rapid pace, but what we do know is its development of roads, rail, and other crucial infrastructure has helped make it the second largest economy in the world.